The wind clawed at the jagged ruins of Outpost Viridian, sweeping dust over blood-soaked metal and splintered glass. Distant mountains stood silent, indifferent monuments to a dying world. Rika Hale crouched behind the twisted frame of a solar array, eyes fixed on the horizon, where black clouds weren't clouds at all. They were the dreadships of the Galactic Empire. They arrived with the precision of predators, blotting out the twin suns and casting everything beneath into fractured twilight. Her breath fogged the inside of her cracked visor. She switched her HUD to external feed. Troop transports were descending from the lead ship, scattering like dark seeds from a ruptured pod. She saw their formation, elegant, disciplined, arrogantly slow. They weren't in a rush. They thought this planet was already theirs. "Command, this is Hale. They're here." A crackling voice returned. "Copy that. You've got 35 minutes until the last civilian transport launches. Hold them, Commander." She didn't respond. What was left to say? Around her, a skeleton crew of fighters emerged from cover. Weathered uniforms, modified rifles, makeshift barricades fused from the remains of mining vehicles and atmospheric processors. Some were barely more than kids. All of them were tired. "Positions," Rika barked, her voice clipped and certain. Private Dern, a wiry kid with plasma burns up one arm, leaned over. "They're laughing, ma'am." Rika paused. "What?" The Empire, broadcasting again." He tapped the side of his helmet. She toggled the encrypted emergency frequency. Sure enough, the transmission bled through, distorted voices drenched in digital echo, mockingly human. "Your struggle is appreciated. Resistance is the mark of spirit. Pity it will be crushed so easily." A deep, synthetic chuckle followed. It wasn't a voice meant for communication. It was for psychological warfare. It was theater. She switched it off. They always laugh before they start killing. Ignore it. The ridge to the west towered above them, a natural stone spine clawing toward the sky. Beyond it, the final shuttle was fueled and waiting. If they could hold the line here, even briefly, hundreds might escape. Maybe more. She pulled her sidearm, checked the magazine, then glanced skyward. The first drop pod struck dirt like thunderclaps. Dust plumed outward. Shadows unfurled from them. Empire shock troopers in their obsidian armor, faces behind mirrored helmets, weapons glowing with artificial intelligence. They walked like demigods. Rika didn't wait for them to speak again. Fire. The world lit up. Homemade railguns cracked like bone snapping. Plasma bolts lanced the air. Empire soldiers returned fire with surgical lethality. Every hit from their rifles disintegrated cover or flesh. The outpost erupted in chaos. Rika moved through it like a blade, directing teams, hauling injured fighters behind walls, dragging ammunition to faltering positions. There was no room for fear, only motion. A mortar round hit close. She stumbled, ears ringing, vision smeared with static. A scream nearby. Kaido, her second-in-command, cut short midward. Her teeth clenched. She shoved the grief down into the pit where it belonged. Not now. Not yet. From the ridge, another volley of pods fell, arcing overhead like falling stars. They landed with such force the ground cracked. She tapped her helmet mic. "Fall back. Sector Theta 4. Use the ridge for cover." Troopers began to pull back, one by one, under fire. Some didn't make it. Some didn't scream. She covered the retreat herself, moving backwards with her rifle raised, each shot precise, clinical. As she ascended the incline of the ridge, her boots scraped across a stone. She paused just long enough to notice the markings. Not natural erosion, no. These were carvings. Sharp, deliberate, and unfamiliar. Symbols etched in angles the human I didn't easily follow. Her fingers brushed one out of instinct. A pulse trembled beneath her glove, like the stone itself was breathing. Then she heard it, just under the wind and gunfire. A hum, low, resonant, ancient. "Commander Hale." Came a voice from behind. It was Dr. Mira Salas, the expedition's linguist, who had refused evacuation. "That's not just a ridge." Rika nodded once. "Notice." Mira moved past her, eyes wide, scanning the symbols. Her hands trembled. These aren't local to Naraka 7, or even this region of space. They're precursor. I'm sure of it. Can it help us? Mira opened her mouth, hesitated. I don't know, but it's reacting to something. Below them, more Empire troops advanced. Slow, deliberate. Their laughter echoed again, this time from the troopers themselves, amplified through helmets as they crushed the fallen under boot. A fighter beside Rika screamed in defiance and charged. He was vaporized instantly. The laughter rose in pitch. Rika clenched her jaw. I've had enough of that damn sound. Behind her, the hum in the ridge deepened. It wasn't responding to Mira. It was answering them. She turned back toward the stone and, for the first time since Earth fell, allowed herself to hope. The wind shifted. The ridge shimmered faintly in the failing light. The Empire laughed louder, mocking, confident. But their helmets didn't know what was buried beneath the rock. Not yet. The passage to the ridge was narrower than it had first appeared, flanked by jagged stone that loomed like petrified sentries. Rika led the way, rifle at the ready, boots crunching over loose shale and fragments of broken mining tools abandoned by long-dead surveyors. Behind her, Mira Salas clutched a portable translation rig and scanned the glowing glyphs with wide, anxious eyes. Engineer Kellen Trask followed in silence, one hand brushing the rock face, the other never far from the pistol at his hip. Rika halted as the passage opened into a hollow chamber hidden within the ridge. The walls curved impossibly smooth, seamless, as if grown rather than carved. A crystalline formation hung in the center of the chamber, suspended in midair, without visible support, humming with a slow, deliberate pulse. The air vibrated against her bones. Mira stepped forward and whispered, It's real. Precursor technology. Not speculation. Not myth. This thing is alive. Kellen knelt at the edge of the platform beneath the crystal, flipping open a diagnostic kit and connecting a power tap. No interface ports. No known material composition. Not reacting to electrical input. He frowned. This thing doesn't want to be understood. Then we don't need to understand it, Rika said, voice low but sharp. We need it to do something. Outside, the ground quaked as a barrage of ordnance slammed into the upper ridge. Dust trickled down from the ceiling, and a distant rumble warned of structural instability. Rika keyed her comm. Report. Empire's pushing hard, came the reply, ragged with stress. We've got heavy losses in the eastern trench. One more push and they'll overrun the evac corridor. She muted the channel before the panic could spill further. They didn't have time. Mira stared at the crystal. It's not a weapon in the traditional sense. It's a node, a psychic conduit, maybe. The symbols are metaphysical markers, not instructions. This thing responds to cognition, emotion, intention. Kellen looked skeptical. You saying it reads minds? No, I'm saying it listens. The humming intensified. The air shimmered around the crystal, like heat rising off pavement. Mira turned her translation rig toward a nearby wall and ran her fingers along a row of symbols. Her lips moved, repeating a phrase barely audible over the resonance. The crystal flared. A sharp, white pulse arced outward like a silent thunderclap. Rika flinched. Kellen ducked. Mira stood still. The pulse swept through the stone like ink into water. Glyphs ignited across the chamber, bleeding up the walls, over the ceiling, then out through the narrow passage behind them. A second later, every comm unit crackled with static. Empire soldiers outside the ridge faltered. Some collapsed to their knees. Others clutched their helmets. Rika climbed to the overlook and peered down the slope. The front line of shock troopers had stopped moving. A few had begun firing wildly into the air. Their precision was gone. Their order was broken. Something just hit them, Kellen said, breathless. Mira didn't answer. Her eyes were closed now, lips parted as if she were listening to something far away. Her voice was barely audible. They hear it too. What are they hearing? Us. Rika watched one of the troopers below remove his helmet. The man staggered in place, his expression lost somewhere between awe and terror. He dropped to his knees, face tilted skyward, blood trailing from his nose. The Empire's assault didn't stop, but it slowed. No more laughter broadcast from their units. Mira opened her eyes. The crystal magnifies the conscious echo. It's not just sound. It's memory, emotion, humanity itself. We're not projecting noise. We're projecting our history. Rika processed that with grim efficiency. And they can't handle it. They weren't built to. They're conditioned for dominance, conquest. No introspection. No guilt. Kellen laughed bitterly. So when they hear what we are, what we survived, they short-circuit or fracture, Mira said. The ridge vibrated again, this time from impact. The Empire had begun to shell the structure. Chunks of rock rained down into the chamber. They're trying to bury us before it gets worse, Rika growled. Outside, the comms lit up again with fragmented reports. The Empire falling back in places, erratic behavior from command units, sensor ghosts appearing and vanishing in the upper atmosphere. The crystal pulsed again, brighter now, and Mira stumbled back, eyes wide. It's not just listening anymore, she whispered. It's choosing. A new glyph glowed at the chamber's far end, one that hadn't been there before. Mira approached it, scanning. Her translation rig stuttered before forming words. Voice of the worthy shall fracture the void. Kellen whistled. That sounds like either salvation or obliteration. Rika touched the comm on her collar. Unit 2, reinforce the north slope. Target only advancing units. Let them retreat if they try. Her voice was hard, but her thoughts were racing. If this was a weapon, it wasn't one they controlled. If it turned, it would take everyone with it. She looked to Mira. Can we aim it? Mira shook her head. Not like a gun, but it's reacting defiance. To courage. That's what fuels it. The crystal flared again, and a new tremor shook the ridge. The laughter that had haunted them since dawn was gone, replaced by silence. Unnatural, total. And yet, even in that silence, the Empire's ranks began to advance again. Rika watched as they regrouped, unsure, slower, but still disciplined. Fear was not enough. She looked at the crystal, at Mira, at the distant evac point hidden beyond the ridge. Then she raised her rifle. Then we give it more to listen to. The battle was far from over, but the first crack had formed. Ash drifted through the air like snow as Rika descended the ridge, her rifle pressed tight to her shoulder. The landscape below writhed with movement. Empire soldiers were forming ranks, their black armor gleaming despite the chaos, their formations regaining shape like shattered glass drawing itself whole again. Whatever effect the crystal had wrought was already beginning to fade. Their hesitation had passed. The fracture had not been fatal. Rika crouched beside a half-collapsed barricade of fused alloy, scanning the horizon. From this position, she could see the jagged trail leading down to the valley's edge, where smoke still coiled from the last evac shuttle. The civilians had made it off-world. That was something. Maybe everything. She touched her comm status? Waning, Commander, came the voice of Sergeant Toma. They're regrouping. We've got 2 functioning mortars, maybe 1 railgun. If they push hard again, we break. Hold position, Rika ordered. Just a little longer. She looked back toward the ridge where Mira still stood in the crystal chamber. The precursor device continued to pulse, but the light was weaker now, flickering like a candle in a vacuum. Whatever power it had unleashed was not infinite, and it had required more than proximity. It had required belief, defiance, humanity at its rawest. Kellen stood beside Mira, hands splayed against the crystal surface. He whispered something she couldn't hear. Myra's face was pale and slick with sweat, eyes locked on the glyphs that continued to shift under her gaze. Her lips moved without sound, mouthing words that weren't hers. Something was still speaking through her, or to her. Rika turned back to the battlefield. Empire soldiers advanced again, slower, more cautious. Their formation was tighter, their steps less sure, but their weapons were no less lethal. One of them raised an arm and fired. A streak of searing light carved a molten line through a nearby ridge, sending debris tumbling. The ground shuddered. Behind her, the humming from the crystal deepened. A tremor passed through the stone under her feet. This time, she didn't flinch. A dozen Empire troopers crested the lower ridge. She aimed, fired twice, dropped two. The others paused, but they didn't retreat. Rika ducked behind cover, reloaded. They weren't laughing anymore. That alone felt like victory. A flicker of motion caught her eye. A lone figure scrambling to the rubble, small and fast. For a moment, her instinct screamed ambush. But as the figure drew near, she saw a child, no older than 10, dragging a bleeding soldier by the arm, pulling him out of the line of fire. Rika vaulted over the barricade and sprinted, laying down cover fire as she went. Plasma scorched past her left shoulder. She dropped to one knee beside the child and hauled the soldier into her arms. The kid looked up at her, dirt streaked across his face, eyes wide and defiant. He couldn't walk, the boy said simply. Rika nodded, said nothing, and carried the man back behind the line. When she set him down, Myra's voice burst across the comms, clearer than before, steadier. "It's ready." One more time. Rika glanced up. The crystal pulsed again, but not like before. This time, the light refracted through the air, as though time itself bent around it. Kellen's silhouette was silhouetted in the glow, his mouth open in a silent scream, though no sound escaped. Mira stood tall, arms outstretched, as if bracing herself against a tidal wave. The air changed. Every soldier on the field, human and Empire alike, froze for half a breath as the ridge shivered. Then came the sound, not a blast, not a scream, but a harmonic chord that didn't travel through air. It traveled through memory. Empire soldiers staggered. Some dropped their weapons. Others clutched at their heads, their helmets sparking. Rika saw one scream silently as the polished black of his faceplate began to shimmer, then fracture as though struck from within. The sound deepened. Helmets cracked. One by one, the mirrored visors of the advancing troops imploded. Not violently, but with a brittle finality, like glass surrendering under pressure. Shards rained down around their boots. Underneath, Rika saw their faces for the first time. Not monsters, not gods, just men and women, all wide-eyed with a terror so profound it looked holy. They were not bleeding from wounds. They were bleeding from their minds. Myra's voice came again, but not in English. The language wasn't translatable. But Rika understood the meaning. You looked into us, and you were broken by what you saw. Empire soldiers fell to their knees, some sobbing, others blank. A few turned their weapons on each other in confusion. A commander tore off his breastplate and ran screaming into the ruins, leaving behind a rifle and the last shreds of protocol. The battlefield stilled. Kellen collapsed. Mira caught him, barely. The crystal dimmed. And then silence. Complete. Rika stepped forward, gun lowered. The few remaining Empire soldiers didn't move. One tried to speak, but choked on the words. Another reached out, shaking, toward a memory only he could see. Rika's calm hissed with incoming chatter, reports from every flank. No more fire. No more laughter. Sergeant Thoma's voice cracked through. They've stopped. All of them. Just stopped. Rika looked out over the field of shattered helmets and broken arrogance. She didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She only whispered, "Not gods, just glass." Mira emerged from the chamber, pale and trembling but alive. Her voice was hoarse. It showed them what we carry. Every atrocity, every loss, every scream we never forgot. They couldn't bear it. And us? Rika asked. Mira looked her in the eye. We were forged by it. The sky above began to clear. The dread ships that had darkened it moments ago now drifted, no longer in formation, no longer coordinated, as if whatever linked them had cracked as well. The cost had been immense, but the fracture was real. And deep in the quiet that followed, Rika knew the war had changed. Not ended, but changed. Behind her, the crystal gave one last pulse, then went dark. The morning came without music, no birdsong, nowhere drones, no thunder of engines, just a restless wind combing through scorched steel and broken earth, carrying with a faint scent of ozone and burnt alloy. Outpost Viridian had survived the night, though it bore little resemblance to the place it had been. The barricades were crumbled. The command tower was a hollow ruin. But the ridge still stood, and beneath it, the crystal chamber had gone dark. That was the part Rika could not stop thinking about. She stood at the edge of sheer overlook, her silhouette cut against the sun as it rose pale and cold behind a gauze of thinning smoke. The battlefield stretched far below her, a mosaic of charred soil and shattered helmets. What had once been a front line was now a graveyard for an idea, the invulnerability of the Empire. Their helmets had cracked like glass, and with them, something deeper had broken. Behind her, Myra's footsteps were soft but distinct. She moved like someone half-anchored to this world, still tethered to whatever had passed through her in the heart of the chamber. Her eyes were sunken but sharp. She had slept little, if at all. The translation rig hung from her shoulder, lifeless now, and dust clung to the hem of her cloak. "It's dormant," she said. "Not dead. I think it's waiting." "For what?" Rika asked without turning. "Belief, need, purpose, maybe all three." Rika exhaled slowly. "Then it won't wait long." Below, medics ferried the injured through makeshift triage centers. Children had emerged from the underground shelters, clinging to parents, whispering questions no one could answer. Some wandered toward the ridge, drawn by the strange silence, as though they knew something sacred had happened here. Kellen joined them at the overlook, his left arm in a sling, but otherwise intact. A fresh scar traced a jagged line along his cheek. He looked older. Everyone did. "We re-established contact with 3 resistance cells," he said. "Scattered but alive. Words already spreading. Whatever happened here is being called a turning point." "Premature," Rika muttered. "Maybe," Kellen admitted, "but morale's surging. People want to believe the Empire can be hurt, that it can bleed." "It bled," Mira said softly. "Not in the way we understand, but it bled." Rika turned now, facing them both. "Any sign they're regrouping?" Kellen shook his head. "Their ships are still in orbit, but they're adrift. No organized maneuvers. No surface landings. It's like they lost the signal that held them together." Rika nodded, but unease coiled in her gut. The Empire didn't stop. It adapted. It always came back. "Then we use the time," she said. "Fortify. Evacuate the vulnerable. And find out what this thing really is." Mira stepped closer, producing a data slate filled with glyphs. It wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to reveal. That's the true power of the crystal. It forces perception. It projects what we carry in us, every scream, every defiant stand, every death that meant something. They weren't ready for that. Rika's jaw tightened. "And if next time they are, then they'll see more than we showed them before," Mira replied. "That's our strength. We're not afraid of what we've been." Kellen gestured toward the ridge. "The inscriptions run deeper than we thought. Not just localized. These are coordinates. There are others, other crystals, other chambers, maybe on other worlds." Mira nodded. "I believe this was only the first, the beginning of something larger. The precursor network was never about weapons. It was a conduit of identity, a warning, a mirror. If we find the others, we could awaken the full system. And if the Empire finds them first," Rika asked, "then we make sure they're not the same Empire by then," Mira answered. Far below, movement caught Rika's eye. A small crowd had gathered around a ridgeside memorial hastily constructed from a twisted metal beam and a pair of cracked visors. Someone had placed flowers, real ones, synthetic or not. She didn't know. A child stood nearby, tracing the name etched into the makeshift plaque with tiny fingers. The names of those who had stood at the threshold and dared to answer the Empire with silence, memory, and fire. Overhead, a low-frequency hum rose, a ship entering the atmosphere. Rika's hand went to her rifle out of habit, but Kellen quickly raised a hand. "Friendlies. Resistance transport from the outer belt. They picked up our signal burst." The shuttle descended slowly, its aged frame groaning in protest, but it touched down in one piece near the broken landing platform. A cheer went up from the survivors. For the first time in recent memory, it was the sound of people being found, not hunted. Rika turned from the overlook. "Then we start again. Smarter this time. Harder if we have to." Mira looked back toward the crystal chamber. "Not harder, just more human." Rika considered that, then nodded. Same thing. Together, they descended from the ridge, boots crunching against a stone. Each step forward was heavy with exhaustion, but also with momentum. The world had changed in the night, subtly, irreversibly. The Empire hadn't been destroyed, but it had seen its reflection, and the reflection had broken its shape. They passed through the camp as the shuttle opened its hatch. Supplies, medics, fresh voices, all spilled out. Someone clapped Rika on the shoulder as she passed. Another saluted. She acknowledged none of it directly, not out of coldness, but because she wasn't finished yet. Mira slowed as she spotted a new set of glyphs blinking faintly on her slate. Another signal. Another ridge. Rika didn't smile, but her voice carried something close. Then we move. The crystal was silent now, buried beneath stone and memory, but it had spoken once, and the galaxy had heard.